How you doing, Brian?
All good, thank you. Running a business, tons of fun.
Yeah, well, it's what you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the first few months is just filling out forms, right?
Yeah,
You got to get new codes with everybody. You got to promise, they want you to promise them the world. How many millions will you give us in the first year? All that rubbish. So it's just like lots of forms. So
that's what my bin's for.
Yeah.
I used to go in front of them. Here's your targets, and just put them in the bin. That was like the test. If they didn't stick around, then we don't. That's why we don't deal with everyone. Morning, Alex.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Morning, guys.
Alex.
I think we'll just wait a bit to let everyone in because of the load shedding. How's it, Brad?
How's it, Dirk? How are you?
Good, in yourself. Hi, Dom.
Morning.
Yeah, all good, thanks.
How's Cape Town today?
Yeah, nice. Seems like a summer day, but pretty chilly.
Okay.
We have electricity. I'm supposed to be load shedded right now, so this is awesome.
Where in Cape Town are you, Brian?
In the northern suburbs, in a suburb called Edgemead.
Okay. No.
But sometimes they just don't. Sometimes they don't load shed for whatever reason. I don't know. Not complaining.
Someone gets to work late and forgets to turn it off.
So I must actually tell you this story, Dick. So on the same grid as us, there's parliamentary housing, right? So years ago, like before COVID, some Karen called into the radio and complained. Now she's obviously this super woke, person, and she complained and said, "We don't get load shedded in our suburb. We need to get load shedded so we can feel what it's like with South Africa, and it's unfair, it's white privilege and all this." And they said, "Fine, we will start load shedding your grid, Edgemead and the surrounds." I mean, we've got a high security prison 1.5 kilometers from our house. It gets load shedded. They don't have backup power. So now we all load shedded. It was this woman called on the radio, and a lot of other people called in saying it's unfair. And then apparently on our Edgemead Facebook group, people were like wanting to know her address. So that's why we get load shedded now.
Okay, crazy, huh? How are you, June?
Morning, everyone. Thanks, Dirk. I'm well.
Good morning, Tim.
Morning. How's it? Good to see you guys.
Yeah. Tim, you on the cipher thing? You in the whole committee and everything, eh?
Kind of. I'm involved as Safer. I'm not part of the committee there.
Okay. Because I mean, Derek spoke to me originally when he started the whole thing, and like we said, yeah, we kind of keen to. There's so many groups that one can be part of these days.
Yeah.
And then I got a friendly email stating that I hadn't paid my fees last year.
Okay.
And that I could. They would, if I joined now, then they would kind of leave it. But I mean, it was never my intention to join, so I just kind of ignored it.
Okay.
So I've been on 1 or 2 of their sessions. In fact, they asked me to speak on one of their sessions. So
that's right.
anyway.
Yeah. So I think the free membership is still available, which currently gives you access to all their content, but down the line, they're going to want to try and incentivize content and have a paid for membership so that they can enlarge their admin base. At the moment, most of the admin is all based on volunteers, and it's not always the best run practice because everyone's so busy with their own stuff.
Yeah, it's quite difficult actually because there are just so many different groups and that okay.
Absolutely. I remember when I first met you and I'd been engaging with Brian Foster, and like back then I still remember thinking this is such a fragmented corner of the financial profession, and in my mind, and I know for all you guys, the IFAs are probably the most important because you're the only people I feel who are really standing up for the client. And me coming as a client, this is the kind of planner I would want on my side, who's not, you know, pushing product, who's not just trying to sell me a policy. And I mean, the amount of newsletters I get and invites I get as well to join IFA groups, it is a challenge, absolutely.
Yeah, I actually heard from Brian yesterday. He's obviously playing golf again, and he's coming to play in the seniors tournament at Humid and at St. Francis at the bottom course.
Oh, fantastic.
So yeah. So
Cool.
I'll see
You're
him.
going to connect.
Yeah, he'll be here in June, so he'll stay with us.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Brilliant.
Okay, guys, I think there's quite a few people have joined. So what I thought I'd do today, because there are quite a few new people who haven't seen like our process. So we've got a process that I developed years ago with help from June and Shannon, who's a Old Mutual coach. Is that right, June? Business coach. And then obviously we've just continued to refine it over the years. With Alex and Ben. Ben's taken his new son to the doctor this morning, so he won't be joining us. And then also what we've done is we've shared it with a lot of people on the group, because it's really stuff that's just out there, and you know, then you make it your own. So for years, I didn't want to kind of have a process that I took every client through, because I felt that it would make things less personal, and it would restrict the kind of conversations we've had. But since we've been using it, which is many years now, it's actually done quite the opposite. And I think, so I know when Alex joined me, he came from an environment, a traditional kind of corporate environment, where it was go out there, be friendly, and try and sell something kind of thing. And I think a lot of people kind of come from that sort of a background in the industry. So having a process that we take every single client through, I know it sounds really rigid. I'm going to walk you through each of the meetings we have, has actually done quite the opposite for us, because the more we use it and the more we make it our own, and the more we personalize it, even within our business, for instance. So if Alex or Ben take someone through it, we'll make it personal to ourselves. It's actually been really, really beneficial and assisted with a lot of the kind of direction that we steer clients in, the kind of conversations that we have. And it's actually led to us having those really, and that sounds awkward, but those deep conversations that we do eventually need to have with clients if we really are going to be able to add value to them. So let me just start. Okay, so what we do is we basically have 4 meetings, a minimum of 4 meetings. The first meeting is what we call a coffee chat. So generally someone gets referred to us or someone calls in, and we get them in, or we get them online, and we really just have a chat about who are they, you know, why are they coming to see us, who's recommended them, and that can be anything from 20 minutes, half an hour, to sometimes an hour. Now, again, let me just say on the outset, none of this is perfect, and this won't be the same for everyone else, but this has worked really well for us. So we'll get them in, we have a chat. Ideally, we'll get them into our offices. Often you got one, like the husband will come in or the wife will come in. And what we don't do is we just basically tell them that we have a process that every single client goes through, whether they've got nothing, whether they've got 100 million, we don't have any of those, but every client goes through this process. And the purpose is just so that we get to understand who they are, what's unique about them. And then obviously we only believe we can give people advice if we really know who they are. So that's the first meeting. And then the second meeting is what we call our initial engagement meeting. And what we do is we have and I'm going to share my screen now. So we get clients into our boardroom, ideally, or we do this online. So online, again, we've made some changes to some of these slides, because we know we can't keep attention for as long. But we'll basically get them in, and I'm going to just walk you through quickly. Can you guys all see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously we personalize this. We have a bit of agenda. So initially it's getting to know the clients. We ask them questions about each other. They speak to us. The whole idea is just to get people to talk about themselves because, you know, and we obviously listen and take notes. And we record these meetings as well. We would then position our value proposition. We talk about fees. Sorry, someone saying something? Okay. Yeah, guys, if you can just mute unless you want to ask a question. So that's really the agenda. So we start off, so what I'm going to do is, these are all questions that we ask, but obviously from that first coffee meeting, we've had a bit of a feel about who the client is, a bit about their situation. So we're not necessarily going to ask all of these questions. So we just start, where are you from? Where did you go to school? Find about their background, their family, what was their first job, their hobbies, do they travel? And then obviously we ask them, which is quite interesting, is, you know, what has the experience been with financial planners? Anything good, anything bad? This also gives us an indication of, yeah, so if they've been dealing with a broker or they've been dealing with someone who's a little bit better than that. And then obviously, what would they expect from us? That's also quite interesting because generally we find that people who haven't dealt with a lifestyle type planner, they'll talk about all the industry stuff there. And then from there, and then obviously, is there anything that's immediate? So sometimes people will come to you because if it's a young couple that bought a house, they need bond cover, or someone's died, or they're getting married, or something has happened in their life. You know, they're in trouble and they need help. And then if that's the case, then obviously we will speak about that. We'll then get into, so we don't have a vision, mission, all of that. We have our why, what, and how, which is kind of the Simon Sinek stuff. So this is all very warm and fluffy. Sometimes it's a bit uncomfortable for people, but we kind of bring this through because this is, in our business, this is who we are. Okay. Then we've taken the three hats that those of you who've looked at some of Paul Armson's stuff, we've kind of adopted that. We had this before on Mutual Wealth. So this comes from the old days, from IPAC, from Access. And you guys know, most of you will know then that Access was bought by Old Mutual. Old Mutual Wealth was started, and that's who they are today. So, but I've used this for over 20 years, this process. We've just changed some of the names. So we say, right, we start off on the left when people come to meet us and there's uncertainty as to how they're going to get to where they want to be. And the three hats we wear is first of life planning. So we talk about helping people uncover. This is about their purpose, meaning. So again, it's not easy to go too deep initially, but what we do is we just explain to clients that this is all part of our process. So we'd like to find out who they are, what's unique about them. Financial planning speaks then to the sums of what we do. You know, the actual workings, how much they need to save if they want to retire on X and all that kind of stuff. And then financial advice really comes down to product. And the problem is obviously that this is where we get paid, but this is where we, you know, the other areas are where we add all of the value. And the whole idea is that we're going to give clients a sense of control and confidence to get to where they are. So we talk them through this. The next thing we talk about the traditional approach, which would be first filling out a risk profile form, and then so people get boxed then into high, medium, or low risk category. They get put into a portfolio which reflects that. That then will give them a return, and then that will ultimately dictate the lifestyle that they lead. So that's really the traditional approach. We don't agree with that. The approach we use is one where we start with lifestyle. So we'll help clients unpack how they live and all the values around that, values being monetary values as well as personal values. That will then dictate, once we understand how long they're going to work, what they're earning, what they can save, what their budget is, the return. And we talk about a real return, in other words, the return above inflation. That return then will be determined by an asset allocation, and that then has risk, or we prefer to use the word volatility, because risk initiates, you can lose, whereas volatility is simply market movements. The reason it's in a circle is, again, because this is an ongoing process. So we take them through that. And the idea is that we take someone from a situation like this, obviously red's not good, and after we've helped them understand the trade-offs that they can make, which could be anything around their money or around how they live, that we take them into a situation where that dark blue graph is a far healthier scenario. We use this slide. We've got two. We've got another blue one where it's got a family in it. So again, we will just pick and choose depending on the clients. And we all know Mitch Anthony, and this is what we do is we just said basically the reason we are going to ask a lot of personal questions is because we need to know that about you guys to be able to help you build your plan. We then tell them, so this is the 6-step process, which we all know as per the FBI international process. So we talk them through that. And then we just have our roadmap, which is quite simple. If they decide they want to work with us and we believe we want to work with them, we'll help them put their plan in place, take care of all the admin, put our working hours in here. We'd see clients twice a year, but we'll tailor make a service level agreement per client, because everyone is different depending on where they are in their life and with certain transitions. So we go through that, and then we position fees. We talk about 3 levels of fees: asset management fees, admin fees, and then our fee. We have a sliding scale, so again, that will be personal to each of you. So we take them through that, and then we just talk about disclosures. So we use Moonstone and all of that, and then we just tell them what's going to happen. We're going to send them minutes. We send them a welcome email. We use from Mitch Anthony and Steve Sandusky, we use the Return on Life survey that goes out to them, that then prepares them for the second email. And then, yeah, so that's all the stuff that we will eventually be sending them. So that's the that's the first meeting that we take them through. It normally takes anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour, depending obviously on how interactive the clients actually are. All right, I'm just going to go through. I'm going to go through the next ones a bit quicker, because I want to get to where, if you guys want to ask anything in the meantime, just shout, or we can do it towards the end. So goal setting, again, similar. So again, we start off by just repositioning all of this, and ideally, what we try and do, we try and run these meetings a week after week after week. So we find that if we let the gap go too long, then obviously people do forget. And again, remember, we try and have both members of the couple in there. So we run through this again. Okay, our planning process, all of that. Okay, and then we get into uncovering goals. And again, these are a whole lot of questions that we can ask. We don't always ask all of them, but the idea here is just to go a little bit deeper than the first meeting, find out a bit more of about the clients, about their relationship with money, with finance. So yeah, again, we will kind of handpick some of these questions based on what we've gathered in the first couple of meetings. Okay, so I'm happy to share all this with you guys. We go into the return on life. So they will have sent this through to us, and we just snip parts of it and we talk about, and it goes into areas of well-being, progress, freedom, and all of that. And then we ask questions around there, and often what happens is things will pop up and guys will say, it's like a fun exercise, and they'll say, oh, I answered that question, why? And the wife will look at him and say, why did you answer it like that? Because they could be very different on certain of these things. And the fun part is that it actually just generates a lot of conversation, and then people will explain why they answer the question in a certain way. So we found that to be really helpful. Then we go into 10 areas of life, and we basically just put these up. What we do at this point is we, in our boardrooms in St. Francis and in PE, we have glass boards, so like whiteboards. We've written all of these up before. We have fun in our PE. Our boardroom's got like a big glass outdoor that looks onto the harbour, so we write on there as well. And we'll get up and we'll ask clients to choose one of these to start with, and then we'll run through each of those and basically just, you know, so we'll say family needs. Okay, we'll start off. You got 3 kids. Okay, anyone with a problem? In other words, is there maybe a child who's challenged in a certain way? Are there parents that you're looking after, or a sibling that needs help? Is there anything you would need in future? When it comes to home, we obviously talk about your home. Are you wanting to do any alterations? What is the value of the home? How much did you pay for it? What's the outstanding bond? What are the payments? All of that. And then how long do you want to stay there? Do you see yourself needing to get a bigger place, or are you going to downscale? And then also, where would you eventually live in retirement? So do you want to move to Plet or St. Francis, or what do you want to do there? Then retirement, we'll talk about, you know, obviously at what age would you like to retire? Do you have a job, or do you have your own business? What does that look like? And all of that. So yeah, work, they kind of overlap some of these cars. So start off, what cars do you drive now? What are they worth? What do you owe on them? How often do you replace them? Where do you see yourself in retirement? Is there anything special you'd like there? And then travel, we split travel into local and international. And we say, right, so basically this is like, what do you do currently? You know, what do you do currently? And then is there anything that you'd like to do in future? You know, want to go watch a pop artist somewhere, or go climb a mountain, or do whatever that is. Education, that obviously is both the people who are sitting in front of us or their children. Is there anything they might want to do around there? And then recreation, legacy, and anything else. So really what we're doing here is, we call it goal setting, but you know, we battle, and we're gonna change that word, because, you know, if you came to me when I was young and said what were my goals, I'd sorely disappoint you, because I didn't have too much imagination around where I wanted to go. But the idea is that we unpack the client's current life so that we can help them start to build a plan. So, you know, we believe that planning is not a static thing, it's ongoing. And then once we've done that, then again, we tell them in the next meeting, we'll have gathered all the information that we've sent them. So in other words, their budget, their personal details. We've gathered information on the assets and liabilities and things like that. Okay. That meeting's done, and then we will get on to the next one. Sorry, get out of that. Then the next meeting is what we call our developing scenarios, another name we need to change. And again, what we do is we just reconnect with those goals, because generally what's happened now is this meeting is maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, because we've had to collect all the information. We've had to make sure that we got all their policy info. Sometimes people a little slower in getting their budget back to you and other details. So we start off by first just connecting with their goals. So again, all the stuff that we've written up on the board, we just take them through this. This has also been relayed back to them in minutes that we've sent. So all around recreation, whatever that would be. And then again, these are all the slides in the pack. We do not use all of them all the time. If someone doesn't have their own business, for instance, we don't necessarily take them through this part. So we just explain the different types of assets, business assets, lifestyle, lifetime, and then surplus. And we run through each of these, the characteristics, what the rules are. And so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Again, I'm happy to share this with any of you. We talk about risk, you know, basically the principle that when you start off and young, you have very little investment. So we need to top that up with any risk cover, but ideally as you get older, you should need less of that. Investment principles, we talk about inflation. quite important, the way that we do our help our clients with investments, that they understand what a real return is. We also talk about longevity. In other words, people are living longer. So, you know, the whole idea is that the Queen of England would send anyone a handwritten letter in the old days, but obviously as people are living longer, that's not possible anymore. We talk about compounding. So again, not all of these slides, because we don't want to confuse and complicate clients, but we do use this as education. It is important that we educate clients around investing and finance, but it's also important that we do it in a slow and a way that they are able to learn. Again, this just talks to, we've all seen versions of this slide. We talk about risk, so volatility, different kinds of risk, and all of that. The asset classes, these are all different graphs we have on that. Again, this as well, get this updated every year. We talk about risk. So you guys would have all seen different versions of the stuff. If not, you're welcome to use this. Talk about asset allocation, where return comes from. 94% comes from asset allocation, not from stock picking, not from market timing. It's quite important. We want clients to understand that we're not asset managers, and that in fact, most of them don't add any value. We talk about the fear and greed, the emotions that everyone goes through, market cycles, and yeah, so there's lots of this. So obviously we pick and choose. This is just shows, you know, what the market gives and what investors are actually getting. We have paid for these slides before anyone asks, but this just again talks to the return that the markets deliver and what investors get because of behavior. And our role here is again another paid for slide. And then we just talk through investment strategies. Again, this is all of them. So we will handpick what we use for certain clients. So this is all personal to us. This just talks to your traditional relationship. You got the clients, you got the broker, and you got the portfolio manager. There's no connection. Yeah, the way we work is we start with our clients. What are their lifestyle goals? We come in and we add all these benefits, and then we link them up with the investment manager that, you know, we have that is relevant to what they're trying to achieve. So it all works together. And then, yeah, these are all things that will be personal to the client. So before this, we go to the actual plan. We use the IWP that Old Mutual have. We've helped them develop that plan over the years, or that model with Tian. And when I say we, I mean all the old Axis strategic partners. So out of that, we'll go through that, and then we will then come and look at whatever these things are. We also use Asset Map. So we use that. What we'll often do is we will show them an asset map of where they are currently. Ben and Alex developed this, so it's pretty cool. We then say Asset Map 2.0, in other words, where you should be or where you could be. So this is great when people are going through a transition. So before retirement, and then in retirement. I mean, we've got clients that have just been through that transition now, and it's quite nice. They can see where all their money was before, and then where it actually is now, and then how that all works for them, because, you know, people like to graphically actually see things. Okay, and then what we've also done is we have a review meeting, and I'll share that. We'll go through it quickly as well, because I know we want to see faces, not slides. Okay, let me just get there. Okay, so again, so we have 2 reviews at least every year, or 2 meetings. The one will be a catch up with clients where we just see what's going on in their lives, and we diarize that. So, you know, and that could be either online or in person. Some clients, we've only ever dealt with them online. Quite amazing since COVID. And then in the second meeting, we do a full review. So we'll send clients their budget, their old budget to update. We'll update assets and liabilities before and everything. We'll actually redo their whole model. And then again, we have an agenda. We just find it really helps. It's not restricting the clients or the meeting. It's actually just making sure that we cover everything in those meetings. So we'll just chat about this kind of stuff every managing month to month. Is there anything changes, any large purchases that they now are going to need to be making? Do they have any major concerns? And then we just touch, and again, we don't use all of these slides, but we find it's really important to anchor some of these principles. So again, inflation, yeah, and then obviously around investing, missing out, this just shows if you had missed so many days, you know, not being in the market, the return that you would have got. So again, this is, again, it's a lot of stuff. We don't use it all, but we do know that it's important because we need to keep on, you know, re-educating people. So then we reconnect with all their goals. So the goals we've shown before we go through again, very often a lot of these things have changed, especially down the line. And I'm going to talk about more about how we do that and then what are actions and steps. So I've found the whole goal setting thing, this whole process can often take up to a year to actually go through it because you get things in place and you know, then you get clients' wills in order. If there are trusts we need to look at or get people to look at, that gets done over time. So I think as you guys will all have experience, it's not very often that you will take someone through a process and then 3 months later, everything's in order, boom, and that's it. And then I'll see you, you know, in a year's time or 6 months' time. It often takes time. So we've kind of worked out that to do the full review, like I've just shown you, often it's 2 or 3 years down the line that it really makes sense. Because if you do it a year, you know, often you'll find if you're doing it a year from when you first met the clients, it's actually 6 months from when you started finishing up all your work, and it's too soon. And it's also quite nice, like if you take them 3 years later through this thing, like you know, stuff has changed and they can say, geez, I can't believe that I wanted that, or that was important to me, or whatever. But it really, yeah, it works. So yeah, look, that's what we've developed. And as I say, it keeps on developing. Any of you guys who deal with Old Mutual Wealth, with people like June, I'm assuming, I think AdviceWorks goes as through a similar process, PWM, if any of the planners are there. But yeah, so that is the process we use. It, as I said, it's worked really well. Initially, it feels a bit restrictive, but once you make it your own, yeah, then it does work well. So yeah, open to the floor to any questions, any comments, or anyone want to share anything that they do.
Dirk, I was going to ask you, when you start off with the clients, at what you say you have the coffee chats, and then afterwards you have another meeting where I think you you position yourselves a bit more and to say this is what we do in that. What kind of agreement or buy-in do you get before you start working with the client to know that they're not going to kind of flake out in a month or two's time?
Yeah, Brian, it's difficult. I mean, so the truth is, and it's not a good business decision. It's something that we do battle with sometimes, but we don't even know how much money clients have got before we start collecting that stuff. And to be quite honest, and I know this is a really bad business call, but it's just the way I've always done it. I just believe that, you know, it's very easily, once you look at the money, to treat clients differently. So we have the coffee chats, and we, like, if a client won't go through the process or wants to rush, we won't work with them. Doesn't matter how much. We've had a guy come in with 70 million rand. we couldn't finish the process, we didn't deal with them. It's quite simple. And it may sound foolish, but I've learned that if you don't do this properly, it'll come back and bite you later on. Because if someone isn't serious about their planning, you know, you're either going to get that client because you're discounting fees or costs, you're going to lose them on exactly the same basis. Or if all the client wants to do is talk about the market, we're not going to work with them because that's not what we do, you know. And with respect, you know, I just don't, if that's your value add, then you're fooling yourself. And as long as you can keep your clients hoodwinked, it's fine. But that's my belief, which obviously I believe quite strongly. So we get buy-in to the process. Some clients will open up very quickly and will go like fairly deep, fairly quickly. Other clients, it takes longer. It takes years sometimes. Sometimes it actually takes something to happen in their lives for people then to open up more. So we, like, you know, if someone isn't sharing their innermost thoughts with us, then it's not an issue. We don't hold that against them, but we do want them to go through the process. And the process actually gives them comfort. You know, as they go along, they kind of learn to understand the kind of conversations that we're going to have and the conversations we're not going to have. But yeah, sometimes what happens is you'll go through this and then you have a client who doesn't have a lot of money. You know, we got Alex who's 30 dealing with his peers. We've got me who's 55 next month dealing with my peers. So obviously they're completely different scales of their life. And then obviously some of those guys don't have a lot of money. They have accumulated much and others then do. So it is difficult. It's something that we talk about and we do battle with. So we'll say, like, if you don't do the process, we're not even going to talk to you. We know that most of the couples Alex deals with do need some form of risk cover, and we're going to earn a commission on that. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But also we've got it down to a T where, you know, we just believe, so in total, the first meeting's 45 minutes to an hour. The goal setting meeting could be an hour and a half. The third meeting, you know, could be an hour. But so if we've got someone who's maybe a bit younger and maybe doesn't have the ability to save as much, we'll show less of the investing education, because we know that right now that's really not relevant to them. Okay, and we'll bring that in into future meetings. We've also created a separate presentation for risk, or we, Alex and Ben, because we're finding that dealing with risk properly is really something quite different, and it's so we actually deal with that separately. Dealing with risk and then retirement planning within the same meeting can be, it just can go on for too long. Okay, so yeah, so I haven't answered your question, but there's no perfect way of doing it. But the more we do it, the better we get. Maybe Alex, you can just share your experience dealing with a different kind of client.
I think it's a bit different for me versus Dirk. A lot of my clients have never dealt with a financial planner before, which is quite nice as well. And the one thing I think, the one slide that we've added recently, probably in the last month or so, is a slide that pops up that tells you the difference between a lifestyle financial planner versus a broker. And once you're able to be able to show a client the difference between what a broker is versus what a lifestyle financial planner is, they get their buy-in actually very, very easier. And it's not selling, it's just, you know, telling the truth. But yeah, from my point of view, a lot of my clients have never dealt, and those who have, it's normally their dad's old broker who, you know, invested a bit of money when they were young or something like that. But we have found that distinguishing between a lifestyle financial planner versus your typical broker on the street, that's kind of where the light bulbs go, like, click in their heads and say, okay, I'm actually making the right decision. So yeah, that's the feedback that we've got from, and I know Ben and I have chatted about it, and he said he shares similar sentiment on that.
Yeah, so Brian, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, over 30 years, and what I have learned is, the industry is crazy because it's full of advisors who are so busy, they got no time for anything. It's like run to meetings. They got hundreds of clients. You can't be doing good work then. I don't care who you are. I don't care how big your team is. I don't care what systems or processes you have. I really honestly believe that if you're doing this work properly, you're going to battle to deal with more than 100 relationships. And there would be 100 families, okay, as an advisor. I've learned that I would much rather spend a lot more time up front with the client, because it's only through that time are we actually able to build a relationship. That becomes more of a trusting relationship down. Well, someone will trust you based on a referral, but the minute you break any trust, the minute there's something that upsets them, it's gone out the window. So, that I think that's something we've probably all experienced. So we're quite happy to spend time with clients, initially, and we've just found that it works really well. And the reason we've staggered these meetings, and we try not to cover too much in each of them, is so like that first initial engagement meeting, sometimes it can be 40 minutes if the client's not really sharing a lot. So it feels like, we could have covered more, but it's actually okay, because of what the one meeting does, it sets them up for the next meeting. It sets them up for the following meeting, so that, as I say, they slowly get to understand the type of conversations that they're going to be having with us.
The more I do this, the more the last only couple of years that I've been doing more LFP as opposed to traditional IFA work. I originally thought, okay, 120 clients, 120 families I would aim for. Then I thought, okay, 100. I'm now I was speaking to Shannon last week, coach, and I was telling her that I'm probably aiming towards 60 families only. But then I've got to earn a hell of a lot from them in total. But the reason is because with the clients who have more complex estates than that, because we're doing so much with clients and we're looking beyond just their investment portfolio or something like that. I'm meeting with their lawyers, I'm meeting with their accountants. I'm sitting there now, they're getting, one client's getting 3 to 4 wills drafted, because they have like several million in different jurisdictions. And each time I'm there with the lawyer, where's my time to help 100 people or 100 families? So to your point, I think the more you do, firstly, the more valuable you become for the client, and the client will see that up front when you obviously talk to that. But there's got to be that, I think there must be that commitment from us to also say, I'm going to go the whole way with you, because there's so much value to add there. And that is kind of something some of my clients are saying. The biggest compliments I get, or the biggest remarks or feedback I get, isn't relating to anything got to do with any markets or investments. It's always got to do with, wow, if we hadn't seen you and if something had happened to us, my family would have been buggered, or I didn't know that I was going to have to pay that much tax if I died. Now I don't have to pay any tax because we've done some, fancy footwork or whatever. And so it's that level of value. And I think when you get into that, you can't have hundreds of people. You just need to kind of commit. And I suppose my question was from, which you answered, but was, how do you get them to kind of commit up front as well? Because it's a lot you're putting into it for, and there's a degree of hope for the reward at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, there is. I mean, you're probably putting in 3 to 4 hours, but I can tell you now that the more you do this, you'll learn to pick up signs pretty quickly. Like if someone's not getting stuff back to you, then and our clients get stuff back. They get stuff back because they're going through the process. It's almost like homework. So yeah, there's no, and I know like there are a lot of, this whole group is about young planners, and we know, and I said it last time, this is a really, really tough industry to start in and to build a business in. It really, really, there's no easy way to do this. And so yeah, time can be an issue. And process like this does take time. But let me tell you that the clients that you will get through using a process like this, something similar to this, are going to be clients that are going to stick and that are going to be there, for the long term. Because there were very few people that are prepared to spend this amount of time with clients. And again, the challenge is because of how the industry pays, you know, Brian, you charge a flat fee, we earn an AUM fee. So younger clients, we're not going to earn a lot of money. However, if we keep that relationship for a lifetime, we will eventually turn them into a profitable client. We call it a mutually beneficial relationship where we will, because the value is in the relationship. Advice around specifics like your will, like the amount of cover you may need, or all that stuff. So the lifestyle planning or the financial planning part of it, the sums of it, and the advice that comes along with it, it is valuable. But the real value is in the relationship. That I believe is, and that's very difficult to put a value on. So again, we don't want to get into the whole fee thing, but it is a problem, and that's why I've said to the younger planners, if they earn commission for doing a risk deal, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. We all need to get paid. We all got to feed our families. Obviously, I would draw the line at charging fees on recurring investments. I would go so far as to say, to charge an upfront fee on a lump sum coming in, there's nothing wrong with that. If it's discussed up front, if it's agreed up front, and we have it in there that we can do that. We hardly ever do it. But if there's someone where we can see there's a lot of work we're going to be doing, we're not quite sure it's the kind of client that will work well with us, we then reserve the right to charge an upfront fee. But I can't remember the last time we did that. But it is there.
Just one thing, something that I added into our process about 2 years ago, which people quite surprised by, but the comments I've got from clients was very positive, and that is that I added in a contracting meeting at the beginning of our relationship. So once the client indicates that they want to work with us, before that I send out an engagement letter, or I meet with them and discuss the engagement letter. And for some people who it's kind of like a slam dunk, I use like either video ask or Descript, and I record a 2-minute of me talking through our process, blah, blah, pricing and everything, send it to them. They say, okay, cool, we want to work with you. Then in the beginning, I have a contracting meeting, and that meeting is maximum 30 minutes. And what I do is I get them upfront to sign our service level agreement, and then also to sign our client disclosure document, just get that out of the way for once and for all. And then also any sort of consent letter that needs to be signed. And the reason I did that is because I realized that people, like, you would do that sometimes, often. Most people don't. I know they don't have SLAs per se. But I thought that if I wanted to make this seem a little bit more top notch, and for people to get a bit of buy-in, they would go through a process of seeing what their responsibilities are. They must make information available to us so that we can do proper planning, etc. And what our responsibilities are, we must give free and fair advice. This is our process every year. We discussed it in our engagement letter, but now it's on black and white. Then at least what I found is that afterwards, the feedback, which I've never solicited, but afterwards they'll say, one couple said, geez, this is refreshing. Previously, our brokers just got us to sign app forms. Now you're signing contracts, and they're like, we feel like we're in a relationship now, like we're contracting, like, so, you might say, well, it's a bit professional or whatever, but the thing is that my perception is over the last 2 years, people have responded to that, and I haven't lost any of those clients. So I get the sense that it just kind of reaffirms a sense of commitment, professionalism, that we're looking after ourselves, and we're also looking after you. And at the same time, we want you to make sure whatever you're signing, you fully understand. And we also then explain how fees work. And the reason I do that is because I want them to understand what they're paying for and how much they're paying. And generally, that is 5 minutes of education I give. And no one to this date that I've ever spoken to has understood how the fees work. So then they thank me, and they're like, geez, now I understand like how it works. No one's taken the time. We just signed forms. So just that it's a 30-minute meeting. It's a contracting meeting, I call it. It's in my process. And I just seems to hit home with some people, especially more senior people, more executive people, because what I found is that is how they do business. When they don't go into a relationship blind, and I try to make sure that with me they don't go into that relationship blind as well. But I don't know if it's suitable for everybody per se.
No, look, I think it's really important, and it's something. I think it's something that everybody battles with, because if you're going to like contract, like you have to have a proper value proposition, because otherwise, what are you contracting for? And that's why, like what we've done is we'll cover how we work, our process, fees. We cover that all in the first meeting, because and at the end of the meeting, we actually say, do you want to have another meeting? We don't assume. We actually ask, do you want to have another meeting? And then we explain, okay, we're going to send a welcome letter to you, and then this and this is going to happen. But you're right. I mean, that's something we could probably do better, is the actual contracting. But I think we all have a bit of an inner fear, because it's like, what are we contracting them to? Because then also ties us down, because we're part of that contract. But yeah, I think what you're doing is great. Anyone else? June?
Yeah, Dirk, I thought just by listening to Brian and yourself, because you do it quite differently, although there's similarities from what I'm hearing. And so we all know the SCARF model from David Rock. And I think by contracting, or even the way that you take people through the process, it creates a lot of certainty in terms of what comes. And that's a attract pulse. So it attracts people to you because it creates certainty. It makes them feel that, calm. So I think it's good, but no one is going to contract if there's no trust that's been built. So somewhere before the contracting takes place, Brian, your process allows them to build that trust, and that's why they're willing to contract. And even with you, Dirk, so even though you don't contract up front, the whole process, the way that it starts, builds trust throughout the relationship, and that's why they're committed at the end, even though you don't do the contracting up front. So I think contracting does allow for certainty, which is important, but building trust is the essence. That's the essence. You're not going to sign anything if there's no trust. So yeah, I thought, very good. Both are doing it differently, but I can see how it can work.
Yeah, no, and I think doing it differently is absolutely fine. But I'm just, the purpose was to relay that there needs to be a process, and it can be personal. Dylan, you got your hand up.
How's it, guys? Yeah, so just listening to everyone was very insightful. Thank you. Once you've established this whole process, you have trust with the clients, you have multiple relationships, you have a nice pipeline of business, that's all great. But what I find the issue is constantly having to follow up with people for documents and things like that. How do you guys get around that? It seems to be one of my biggest pet peeves at the moment. I feel like I'm everyone's PA, just getting them to commit to meetings and these are like long-standing clients who we have like a lot of, let's say, assets or various policies with, and that we oversee their financial portfolios. They often take really long to get back. So it just causes like disruptions in our pipeline. So how do you guys deal with that?
Dylan, I think, so when we started adopting this for every single client, obviously I had previously clients that hadn't been through the process. And it's not easy bringing those people around, because the conversations you've had were different. So the language you're using now, you're talking about managing people's portfolios. So I'm not being critical at all, but that then speaks to that kind of relationship where those clients probably see you as investment experts. Okay, so the challenge is then to turn that relationship into one which is more personal. That doesn't mean you don't have a good relationship and you can go and have a beer with them or play golf, but a proper, deeper relationship, more of a lifestyle financial planning relationship. Because I think otherwise they're just going to see you as a, oh God, we've lost Dylan. Sorry, Dylan, you're back. Dylan, you there?
He took offense.
You there, Dylan?
I am with you. I just lost you temporarily. I got booted out the meeting. Sorry about that.
It wasn't me. Sorry. Yeah. So I think the problem lies with the type of relationship that you have with a client. So again, with respect, a lifestyle financial planning relationship is very different to, let's just call it, a broker relationship, where the focus has always been the money. I'm not being critical. We understand this is a reality. And the challenge is then to swing that relationship to one which is more lifestyle, financial planning orientated. And that is why. So another reason I don't like to look at the money before I've had like the goal setting meeting with a client is if you in the first meeting, if a client says, so what should I do with my RA? We'll just move the conversation away. Because the minute you talk about the money, that's what they're going to want to go back to every single time. So we just say, look, we'll get to that. We cannot talk about that until we know who you are, what's unique about you, and where you're trying to go in your life. I promise you, trust me, the minute you talk, if you put the money first, it's going to be very difficult to change that relationship down the line. So I think the challenge is, Dylan, is to try and move, because once you have the kind of relationships that we have, we get stuff back. So like after that first initial meeting, they get in the welcome letter is the RL index. They've got to click on the link, answer 10 questions. If they don't do that, we don't have the next meeting. So we're getting to know straight away, because we don't want to go into a relationship where a client's not going to give us stuff. And trust me, we've also had it where for the reviews, the client don't get you the updated budget back or whatever. That's a massive, massive red flag, because down the line, it's going to come back and bite you, even if it's not your fault. We go to the client and say, listen, if you don't do this, we're going to have to terminate the relationship, which is it's like really hard to do. But think about it. If you don't, the reason they're going to come to you is because something's happened. Very often it's something not good. And then they're going to blame you because, oh, you didn't do it. Clients forget very quickly the stuff that they haven't done. So as what Brian was explaining, how you contract, I think is really important. And the contracting doesn't have to be only around fees. That's obviously important. But the contracting is more about the type of relationship that you're going to have. Because it needs to be a two-way relationship where the client gets back to you as well. Mike, so you got your hand up.
Perfect.
Mike, can't hear you. Just check your mic, Mike. No, I can't hear Mike. Sorry. Can anyone else hear Mike?
No.
Okay, Brian, just go back to you quickly while Mike sorts that out.
Cool, no problem. Just another thing to get back to Dylan there as well. I've got the opportunity to look back over a couple of years to see how things were before I kind of transitioned the business and everything to LFP versus, you know, IFA, the standard business IFA way of doing things. And no client that I've taken through this process and I work with on this basis do I have any commitment problems with. The only time sometimes it can be slow is when they're going through life. So when life happens, I got clients now who are a bit slow because they lost both parents in 3 months, you know, but we're gonna have a hell of a lot to do after that. But the thing is that I got another client who's been extremely slow. My onboarding has taken 12 months. The reason simply is because he runs a restaurant, and so sometimes he's just busy season. But that's not a case of lack of commitment. The lack of commitment was when people didn't see value in what I did. And so when they didn't see value in what I did, they treated me as having no value to them. And so that then when I found, what I found was that they weren't getting back to me, they weren't honoring meetings. As soon as we changed and showed people what we can do for them, and there's just, when you go through this process with people, there seems to be this transfer of value already, which doesn't yet exist. We haven't done anything yet, but there seems to be a perception of value. And so and also what we generally are kind of selling is a potential outcome or result, and it's a feeling. And what I found is that people then commit because they want that and they see there's value in that. So I think it's a lot to do with value perception. And if we, in the beginning of a relationship, start talking to people about money and products immediately, that is our value, is money and products. And that is not something I'm in a rush to get, not something I'm in a rush to meet about. I'm not in a rush to set that debit order up unless I have massive fear. And then I'm replaceable 100%, because the value is surface, is a kind of at a surface level as opposed to skin deep. So that's my perception and my observations over the last 2 years. I don't have any of those old clients anymore, what I called legacy clients. I started my own business. They didn't come with me. A lot of them wanted to, but I just didn't want to because I wasn't happy working with them. And I felt that I was chasing my tail. Now I'm working with people who've been through the process and kind of sipping the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And we're all on the same page. And it's a much more rewarding relationship that I have with my clients now. It's much more enjoyable. And chasing after them is not really, it's not a problem I have to deal with. I've got other fish to fry.
Great, thanks. Mark, have you got it working? Okay, Mark's, I'm not sure. I'd like, Simon, I know if you're there, if you can maybe share with us, I know that you use something similar, and speaking to like around what Dylan was talking about, have you seen a difference in the different types of clients? Because I know you've come into a traditional IFA business, built it into an LFP business, and then your experience around converting those older type relationships to the newer type of relationship.
Yeah, Dirk, I won't share my slides because I think it'll be embarrassing. It'll look like you're re-looking at what you've just gone through. But for those that are new to the group, Dirk very kindly did this sort of similar presentation probably a year or more, probably closer to 2 years ago. So being sort of the kind person he is, he was willing to share that. So my big struggle in the beginning was having the same conversation and trying to achieve, the lifestyle financial planning process without having any material to work on. And with a small sort of office, we didn't have the resources to go and sort of chat to marketing teams and things like that. So Dirk was hugely helpful in sharing his stuff. So it looks very similar, but ultimately to try and achieve the same goal. And I just found that there was like a material change when I started sort of adding that professional side to what I was already doing in meetings before that, where people would run through a slideshow. The slideshow is not everything, but I think it just added to the whole experience of coming in and realizing, who you're dealing with. So for those who haven't done it, I think it's very much worth a try to go that route. It also just helped me stick to, the same sort of experience for each client. So to answer Dirk's question, to go back to some of the more traditional relationships that were held with my father-in-law, who's the sort of KI and head of the business, and his clients. Some were easy and some not so much. Some of the existing relationships were dealt with in a very sort of old school manner, in the sense that he would see them super regularly, but they're not like tech savvy people or not keen on having a presentation, or they're quite stuck in their ways in terms of the service they were getting. So often he would, the majority of the time he would hit the road and go and see all those people, and he was phenomenal at being busy and going to see them. So they would often have very, very good relationships, but it wasn't done in the same way. They wouldn't step into our boardroom. They wouldn't be doing any Zoom or Teams calls to go through that. So the way you'd have to try and position it is quite different. I wouldn't rock up there with a presentation or an iPad or whatever to go through it, but more, trying to get them to understand, the transition in the relationship at some stage. Although it's partial now, at a later stage, I'll be the one to look after them. I think they still got the idea, but it has been quite challenging, because those relationships have been coming 20 odd years or more. So yeah, in that sense, tricky. But had a lot of success, especially with people who here in town who are happy to come into the office, and my experience is that they've taken to it extremely well. Okay? But even seeing your slides today, Dirk, I can see you guys are constantly tweaking it to better it all the time. And immediately I've like written notes to say, geez, that's a great little change. That's a great change. From the risk planning, I haven't for us, it's always quite a challenge to go through that, because I also see a lot of younger people as well. And for me, to be very honest with you, I'm petrified of a young person who doesn't have the assets walking out of this office without properly addressing that and understanding it. Because the first thing that will happen is they will come to you to say why it wasn't dealt with, or why it wasn't focused on enough, because it's actually the most important part. So that sort of thing, just being able to, I'll have to ask Dirk after this and maybe chat around just something like that, that is easily understandable for clients and hits home with the importance of where that fits in. I don't have that, but yeah, in generally, it's been super successful to add it to the process. And yeah, definitely something that needs ongoing tweaking to find out how you work. I've also tried, I think Dirk is had the same, where my client base is not high net worth individuals. And I think for those who may be in a similar boat, that's quite challenging, because when you have an established business, to go through these processes, if you have limited number of clients, is amazing, because it must be incredibly fulfilling that you've kind of built your practice to that point where you can do this properly. Unfortunately, with me, a lot of the time, I've had to try and cram a lot of that in. Meetings end up going a little bit longer than what you've planned, and also the monetary reward for it is initially, not there, which is really difficult, because you want to do the whole process with every single person. But as you can imagine, if you've got maybe more clients, or a lot of the clients that are not exactly, if I can say, paying your bills, to try and get, say, 4 meetings in a row staggered that take, time, and you're not seeing anything for it, I can only imagine that a lot of people on the group here would find that quite challenging. And that's something that I've also tried to improve. But eventually, I think you'll get to a point where you can apply this to almost every client, or your practice will develop. Hopefully I will get there where I can focus on doing it properly with lower numbers, and maybe someone else can come in and follow a similar process, and I'll give them the ability to build without being financially pressured, but to follow it the right way. So yeah, it's a constant challenge. That's why we're here, still learning from you guys. You're obviously doing it well, but yeah, there's still those challenges I have as well.
Great, thanks, Simon. I think, yeah, I've always said, like, this is ongoing learning, ongoing getting better, and I think if you're going to be a great lifestyle planner, you need to have that hunger in you. It's got to be part of who you are, learning and sharing from each. And the reason we're happy to share this stuff is because Simon's made it his own, someone else will make it their own. So it's not rocket science. It's out there. It's just, we got help from other people originally. With the risk planning, what I've been doing recently is, because you've got all these models where it just pumps out, you need 3 million cover, or you need this, or you need that. But what we've done is, in the separate meeting where we've got the clients, but we'll sit the couple down and say, okay, no, you're probably not going to die or get maimed. However, there's a chance that you can. So let's go through your budget, and we look at everything and say, okay, now if someone dies, or just, do we need this car? Could you change? Do you need to drive a Merc, or could you drive a Volkswagen, for instance? Okay, because if the difference there is, it could be substantial. It's what you need, especially when you're young. If that happens, do you need that? Where would the kids go to school? So we'd like to allow for 4 years of varsity education, but if we maybe go for 3, that's what the cost is. So what you do is the clients walk away, they really understand why they've got what they've got. And then also some risk will say, well, look, if you settle your bond in the next 7 years, we can get rid of all of that cover. So maybe we'll use term cover, or for part of the cover, we'll put it on an accelerator premium, because we know the breakthrough point's at about 7 years. And in 7 years' time, if the goal is to settle that bond, even if they haven't settled it, they'll have largely reduced it. So, we try and get a lot more active with risk cover, because we find traditionally risk cover is like you sell it and then it's there forever. We had a 70-year-old come in, their pension was 40 and they were spending 15 grand a month on risk, which they didn't need. Okay, so that's what happens a lot. Okay, I see. So Mike, you say using multiple systems for planning. Do we collate everything together into one plan? How often do you send the clients a full plan after each review? Do you ever use a one-page plan through the year to send clients. So this is like really interesting. We spoke about this, I think, at the end of last year. By the time you write the plan and send to the client, everything can have changed, and it most likely has changed. And I'll get into trouble for this, but like even with the FPI financial plan of the year, the problem is the kind of plan that they're asking for is like a 70-page with all the detail and all the sums and everything. The reality is that I think that 99% of clients aren't interested in something like that. They do want, Mike, what you call a one-page plan, where even the one-page plan is 2 or 3 pages. I think that's what they want. So we don't actually at the moment give like a written plan. After every meeting, we do very comprehensive minutes. And this initial process, so once we've had like the final plan where we show them this and then we discuss advance, there will be other meetings. So when we onboard a client, the process is probably 5 or 6 meetings. And by the end of that, they kind of understand where they are. But it is something that we're looking at. So I think we and Ben's been doing work on this, but a one-page plan is a really good idea. And a one-page plan, as I said, could be 2 or 3 pages, but just a very broad overhead of what it is. I know I'm going to London next month, and I'm going to 2 conferences there. One and one of them that Abraham Okusanya is running, and Alan Smith speaking there, who I've got to know very well. Andy Hart, who runs Humans Under Management. I'm having lunch with him. Andy, I know well now. And when I've spoken to them about what they do, is they have systems like we have, like the IWP, that can now pump out a big plan. What they do is from compliance, they will have that big plan, and they'll just like put it in a PDF and send it. But then they have like a shortened version which covers all the stuff that the clients really want to know. So they're doing both. They're sending a very brief overall plan, and then they're sending, for compliance purposes, the 70-page plan that they know 99 out of 100 are never going to look at. And then, Mike, we will use Asset Map, not with every client, but we'll bring it in where we believe it can add value. Okay, and then Andre, you're asking, do we tell our clients, if you're not a money manager, do you use DFM or ETF? Yeah, so I've used, for the last 22 years, when I discovered lifestyle planning through Andrew Bradley, through IPAC, who's a company from Australia. These were the first funds that were actually inflation targeted. Momentum will tell you differently, but they're talking nonsense. So these were the first inflation plus 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 4 to 6, and maximum return. And they use a multi-manager approach. So these are the SAS investment strategies that Old Mutual Wealth have. I know Advice Works have something similar. PWM have their own, kind of all based on the same thing. So and it was a huge change for me because I didn't suddenly have to be a money manager. So now I very proudly tell people I've got no idea what the markets are going to do. I've got no idea where the rand's going to go. However, the markets, I do know they're going to go up. I don't know when. They're going to go down every year as well, but I know that they are going to go up in the long run. So that's and we've used 99% of all our clients' money is in those investment strategies. So I don't need to all your eggs in one basket. Sure, they are, but it's because of the way the money's managed. It's been managed the same way for the last 22 years since I've been using those funds. I can show you my money and the returns that have way outperformed those in targets after costs. So they're about 1.5% cost-wise. Overseas, they're big on tracker funds, passives. You speak to all those English guys, they'll tell you, and I get it. For me, what we do is working. It's not broken. I don't need to change it. But I think, if you position yourself as a money manager, you number one, you're bullshitting yourself. You're bullshitting your clients. And that's just the truth. We know that 80% of active managers don't outperform the market. That's just how it is. It's a fact. And they're running those funds just to make a whole lot of money. It's a massive, massive business. we're not going to get into that, but yeah, I think so. We use I think the SAS funds would qualify probably as a DFM, but yeah, that's what we've always used. Mike's saying, yeah, you've been looking to produce a one-pager. Mike, if you want, I can ask Alex if we can maybe ask you or Ben just to share what we've done with the group. What we've also done, what Ben's obviously like the IT buff, and he's the creative one in our team. And actually, Alex is not bad either. He's also done something where he did a presentation on, I think, like on Teams like this. He recorded it with a PowerPoint, and he WhatsApped it to a client, which is really cool because the client was traveling at the time. So I think that time, Alex, was about risk. But technology is an amazing thing, and it's something we certainly want to embrace more as well. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there to stay in contact with clients by using technology that way. Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to ask? We've got 10, 15 minutes left. Dylan.
How's it, Dirk? Yeah, I think I was in between meetings earlier. I'm actually still in the car, so maybe I didn't really pose my question correctly.
Sure.
I think we follow very similar processes to what you guys do. The way we view risk and money is also very similar to the way you guys do as well. It's more just, as Simon was alluding to a little bit earlier, having a different type of client base. I think sometimes just for business continuity, especially when you have a less mature business, it's almost essential to get documents back. And at the end of the day, even if you take them through the whole lifestyle financial planning process, you give them great service, you take the approach a bit differently. People are sometimes just slack anyway. So I think maybe the answer lies in what Brian was saying a bit earlier about getting that upfront kind of commitment and kind of gauging the client. As you also said, Dirk, in your first meeting, if they don't get back to you with the first questions, it kind of shows it's a red flag. It shows their intent from the beginning.
Yeah, it's difficult, and I mean that's why I don't judge anyone on how they charge, with the exception of commission on recurring investments. For the rest, we understand the way the industry is set up. It's really, really tough. It's a lot of hard work. So when you're building your business, if you need to have a few clients that maybe aren't ideal, but they're paying for some of the stuff, then that's absolutely fine. That's exactly what I've done over the years. But it's taken 30 years to get to a position where, and it's still not all roses. It's never easy. But yeah, what I have learned is that those clients who don't get stuff back, those aren't great relationships, and they will 9 times out of 10 they'll come back and they'll kick you in the butt somewhere. Alex.
Yeah, I just want to speak a bit more practically on what Dill's asking there. What we do is we quite upfront in the first meeting, and I think it comes down to how you position it. So, I mean, one of the things that we'll tell clients is that we can only do the quality of work that we can do with the information that we can get provided from yourself. So if you're not going to share, if you're not going to send documents back, or you're not going to share, the full picture of what you have, then you must expect to get a half-done plan that's not really going to give the full picture of what the reality is. And yeah, so it's more about how you position it up front by saying, listen, it's like any good relationship, it requires two-way communication. So if we're not going to get that two-way communication from you, then we're kind of wasting both each other's times. And it's something I'm quite harsh on, because I've had exactly the same perhaps obstacle you are going through now, where you're not getting information back or documents back. So I just made the decision one day to kind of just say it up front, and be quite assertive about it, and it's kind of paid dividends. Everyone seems to be getting stuff back now a lot better than they have before.
So you find actually taking a bit more of an assertive approach with the client and stating upfront, listen, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to give you professional service. I'm going to need commitment from your side, otherwise the relationship's not going to work out, and I can't give you what you actually need. So it's kind of just being more assertive, saying this is what I need and this is what you're going to get by giving it to me.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they've come to you for a service and for advice and for help. And if they're not willing to engage properly, then they're probably not going to get the level of service that they either need or want. So yeah, I've been quite strict about that. But again, it is how you position it. But I'm sure you'll find a way that suits your client specifically.
I mean, a great example, sorry, I'm jumping in again, but a great example, I mean, I picked up a client about a month ago. He had 14 million Rand life cover and 3 million severe illness cover, 5 million capital disability cover. I asked him why he even had the cover and he couldn't give me an answer. He said, well, my Liberty broker sold this to me a few years ago and he just said it would help me look after my son. And I mean, okay, firstly, that was ridiculous. So I took him through our process, determined how much cover he actually needed and why he needed it, looked at restructuring his current setup. He now committed to the full thing. I did like a money EQ questionnaire that I've sent through. I've done retirement planning, all sorts of things. Gone through the application process. I've now been waiting for 3-4 weeks for FICA documents. So like that type of thing, like following up 10 times over and over with this type of clients, it just seems like excessive, you know, and that's the type of thing I'm struggling with.
Yeah, Dylan, I think you also are just going to get those people that are not good with that. So yeah, we also try and get a lot of that stuff up front. But yeah, I mean, you're always going to get the outliers that are just really different. Frank's having a shot at me there about Spurs. Yeah, Marguerite, I was actually going to ask you, welcome to the group. I think this is your first session. And I know that you work with Mary Jo. Do you want to just, I know you've typed here, but do you want to maybe just explain to us quickly the process that you guys use? Because I know it would be different to most others.
Hi, guys. Yes, we work very much from a coaching perspective. So we actually start out, what we've been trying for the last 18 months is to go strictly fee-based, and we're really battling with that. So we are probably going to head back towards a hybrid model, but in terms of how we're getting paid. But what we do is we start off very much from a coaching perspective. Where's the client at now in terms of their life, and how does their money relate to that? So there's definitely overlap between the lifestyle financial planning process and what we're doing, but we're coming at it from a softer angle, I would say. And then we bring in the money and how it supports the client in terms of what they want for their life and how they want money to support that. But we're also very, very passionate about clients getting more empowered in terms of financial literacy and general financial empowerment. So what we say to them is that we're going to create an environment that is gently challenging. We put them in a position where they actually have to go and dig for documents, and they have to maybe phone a product provider and say, like, I've got this debit order going off my bank account and I don't even know what it is for. And the client then actually needs to go and do that research and come and present to us what they've got. And then we start putting that into context for them and help them understand what the purpose is, and does it have any role to play in their current scenario, or was it sold to them 20 years ago and they actually have no use for it?
Yeah, no, I think I've seen, obviously, I know Mary Jo fairly well, so you guys are doing great work there. I think it's really hard doing it the way you guys have done it, and so I say that with a lot of respect, because I know, I don't know you well, but I know Mary quite well, and I know the passion that she has around that. And I just want to say, you know, I think a lot of, especially newer people in this industry, like, we know the bad reputation the industry has for very, very good reasons, and it continues. And I see online, we look at all these guys they're like advice-only planners. In other words, everyone must do it themselves. And that's fine if a client is that way. But I really believe that we can draw up fantastic plans, help clients build great plans. But if they don't implement properly, it's absolutely useless. Like, I can give you a model car to build with instructions, but if you're not going to do it, it's not going to get built. If you're not going to paint it properly, it's not going to happen. And I think and where it comes from, I think, is a lot of these planners are a bit guilty around money, their own experience with money. They feel a bit dirty. The reality is stop thinking about the money, I think, in a lot of cases, and focus on the person to help that person get to where they want to be in life. They need to invest somewhere. So if they're going to do it themselves and put it into Bitcoin or into some ARB fund, instead of a very simple inflation plus 3 to 5, where you can just stick it there, leave it, and never look at it again, that's magic. And you're helping the client do that. So, and then if your fee basis is that you earn from that, a percentage fee, if it's agreed by the client, there's nothing wrong with it. That's why we've got a sliding scale. So, after a certain level of wealth, every million after that, we're earning $2,500 a year. It's not money. It's kind of like a little risk premium. But we understand to have a business where people get paid salaries, where we have systems and processes and staff, it costs money, but we're building a proper business. So I think sometimes we need to, I'm not saying this is what you are, Marguerite, but sometimes this thing to completely be different from the industry can tie us up as well. And I think there is a place, like some sort of a hybrid model, where we can earn money in a traditional type way, but still do really good work like you guys are doing. Because the problem is, if you're trying to be fee only and it doesn't work and you get out of business, who have you helped? You've helped no one, and it's really sad because guys like yourself are so passionate about what you do. So just something to think about. All right, I see Tom's typing, Andre's gone, Baron's gone. Okay, guys, I think if anyone wants to see the slides that I've shared with you, just let me know, and I can share them with you. We'd have to do it through WeTransfer. Or if anyone wants to chat about it a little bit more, you can chat to me or Alex or Ben. He's not here. We're more than happy to do so. All right, guys. Otherwise, thanks for a great session. I know I've done most of the talking, which isn't the idea, but and we'll chat online and otherwise next month.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks so much,
Bye.
Dirk.
Bye. Thanks, Dirk.
Yeah, if you want to see the site, just WhatsApp me.
Perfect. Thanks.